So we're going to be talking about, so this is presented by the New York State Southern Tier Clean Energy Communities. I'll give our names at the end. I'm Tara Donatia, but there's a few other coordinators throughout the Southern Tier that you may be working with as well. This webinar is going to be on benchmarking with Energy Star Portfolio Manager, the basics. So we're going to be talking about the Energy Star Portfolio Manager tool, what benchmarking is, and many of you are probably familiar with this because you have passed a resolution as part of the Clean Energy Communities program and need to know how to start to benchmark your data. So I'm just going to start with a little brief overview about the Clean Energy Communities program for those of you that aren't familiar, although I'm assuming most of you are. This is a current map as of yesterday of all of the communities throughout the state that are actually participating in this program. You can see all of the designated and participating. There's actually quite a few and 144 designated communities, so a lot of grant money has been awarded already. Benchmarking is just one of the action items that communities can participate in order to get designated. As you can see there, there's the list of all of the high impact action items on the left. So what is benchmarking? You know, the reason that a municipality would want to benchmark their buildings, it's when you're looking to improve, the first question you or the government might ask is, how are we doing? And then it's, how do we know how we're doing? So by gathering energy data specifically, you can start to look at that. It helps answer important questions like this. And it's the process of comparing your energy performance to something similar, basically. So something similar could be internal, like performance at the same time last year for that same building from, say, 2016 to 2017. So you can look to see if your that new heating system you installed could potentially has been saving you money, or if there's been any gaps or issues in your energy use where you should be maybe wondering if something's broken. And then benchmarking can also be comparing to something similar like other facilities elsewhere. So this is kind of what this graphic is showing is, you know, if you've got other municipal buildings or municipalities that have similar buildings, you can benchmark against them if you want to. Wastewater treatment plants can benchmark against other similar size wastewater treatment plants to see, you know, if you maybe want to set some goals or if you're really excelling in what you're doing. So for Energy Star Portfolio Manager, which is the tool that that NYSERDA is asking you to use in order to do this benchmarking, that's what we're going to be using today. And I'm actually going to walk you through setting up a property and installing a meter, setting up a meter and putting in your data and things like that and pulling a few reports. But what is Energy Star Portfolio Manager? So it's an EPA tool that's used to track energy and water consumption. You can also do greenhouse gas emissions. You can use it to benchmark the performance of one building or a whole set of buildings. So in a municipal case, you'd probably want to do all of the buildings the municipality is managing. It's pretty popular. Over 40% of US commercial building space is already benchmarking with this tool, as are a number of large US cities. New York City, Seattle are just a few that have passed some benchmarking resolutions, I guess you could say, or laws in order to track their use, and they're using this tool as well. So quite a few properties throughout the world. So the Energy Star part of it is probably something that you've recognized. There are quite a few different types of properties that can be Energy Star rated. And Energy Star scoring is similar to what you might see, you know, if you buy a washer or refrigerator, when you see that Energy Star rating, so you can decide whether or not this is going to be a cost-saving option or maybe a more expensive option for energy use. But you can do that now for buildings in this case. So when you put in all your data, the website can actually Energy Star rate you, which is a plus. So there's actually only a few categories that have been able to be Energy Star rated so far, although there's quite a few more than this when you get into the website. But if you can choose one of these, you could potentially get Energy Star rated as well, which is an additional plus on top of the Clean Energy Communities program. So You can see there's a few municipal options potentially there, wastewater treatment plants, an office could be potentially, you know, your town hall, courthouse, things like that. So. And now I'm actually just going to switch over to the portfolio manager, and we're going to walk through that process. So this is what Energy Star Portfolio Manager looks like. I've already set up an account, so you know, at this point I'm assuming that you may have set up an account, but it's not that difficult to do. You can see my email at the top here, where I logged in and I created one. You just have to verify your email address. But this is what your welcome page is going to look like when you get on here. So the first thing you're going to want to do is add a property. So we're going to start there. There's two ways you can add a property. You can do it manually, or you can do it by uploading and updating multiple properties on a spreadsheet. So this function here allows you to download this templated spreadsheet. You can plug it all in an Excel file, especially if you've got multiple properties. This could be a better option, a little bit easier for you to do, and easier to kind of gather the information that's needed too, especially if you've got different people managing those properties. But today we're just going to focus on adding one by one, which is certainly a good tool for municipalities that have just maybe one or two properties that they're going to be benchmarking. So let's get started. Just what it says on here too. Your property type. So we're going to select a property type. And like I said, there's plenty more than were on that list I just showed you a minute ago. But we're going to actually focus on, we're going to do a town hall today. So we're going to, you know, use a templated town hall example to kind of show you how they would do this. As I mentioned, we like to use office or some of those if possible. I think most town halls can fit into the office category. So I'm going to choose that so that we can show you what Energy Star ratings look like. But I wouldn't think too much about these properties. You know, if there's, for some reason you're not able to find it, there's a few categories, particularly town garage or garages or those types of buildings that don't necessarily fit into those categories. Don't overthink it, just choose something. It's not going to impact, you know, the data that you're putting in. So your property's buildings, how many physical buildings do you consider part of your property? Is it part of a building? Is it just one building, which is most likely going to be the case? And in this case, I'm going to choose this. Or is it more than one, which could be a campus? Campuses are very specific. You have to be basically a hospital, K-12 school, senior care center, specific types of properties to fit into a campus. So you can click on this if you feel like campus is something that you might, you know, be doing. But in most cases, it's probably just going to be one single property and you'll have different meters. And then your property's construction status. Is your property already built? Most of the time it's going to be an existing property, although it's good to know that there's design project options and test properties and things like this that you could also you know, use if you ever wanted to. So getting started. So now it's going to ask us some questions about our property. I'm just going to type in some information. I'll say ABC Town Hall. This is actually our address here at my cooperative extension office in Hamden, New York. I'm just going to choose some information. The year built, so I'm going to say 1980. Gross floor area. This is going to be the measure of principal exteriors, basically anything interior. So you can always click on these details of what to include, but porches and things typically don't count. You know, you can always kind of research, and that's the good thing about this website is it allows you to kind of hover over things if you're questioning what, you know, what this could mean, and it gives you great definitions. So it's a very helpful website. I'm actually going to put in 5,000 as the gross floor area, even though I think that's a little large for this property, the data that I have for this one town hall. The reason I'm doing that is because as far as offices go, only 5,000 plus can be Energy Star rated. So I just wanted to show you the Energy Star rating today, but it may not be completely accurate what we pull up. Irrigated area, we don't have any irrigated area for this property, but this could be helpful if you're using the water function, which we're not going to focus on today. And then occupancy. So occupancy is the total number of the amount of building space that you have occupied. It's 100% in this case, but there's possibilities that you may have open offices and things like that that could bring this number down a little bit. And then it's just asking us, does it include any parking areas? Do you have a data center, which would have a large energy load, retail stores, restaurants, cafeterias? In this case, I don't have any of those. I'm just going to hit continue. So now we've got this property all set up here. You can see the information, and it's just going to ask us a few more questions about this. So it's already taken our gross floor area. Weekly operating hours, I'm going to say 40. Workers on main shift, I'll say 10. Computers, I'll say 10%. That can be heated is going to be 50% or more, because we don't really have any cold storage or other things like that in this building. And then percent that it can be cold, because we have an air conditioner. So this data just all helps the portfolio manager understand your property a little bit better and kind of rate it with other properties. So, and as it says here, it helps to calculate the 1 to 100 score of your Energy Star score. So things you'll want to consider. Adding a property. And it's telling me congratulations. We've successfully created your property. So now it's telling me the next thing, which is actually what we're going to do, is add our energy use information. As I mentioned, there's actually quite a few different types of things that you can put in here. So energy is the one that you will want to be focusing on with this benchmarking resolution. There's also the option to put water data, waste material data, but we're not going to focus on those today, just so you know that this tool can do more than just energy compilation. So we're going to start here and click on the energy tab. And the first thing we need to do is add a meter. So there's different types of meters you can add for your property. We're going to just add an electric meter today, but if this town hall was also doing fuel oil delivery, that might be something you choose to, because you really want to get all the comprehensive energy information, particularly if you're trying to calculate a greenhouse gas emissions score, which could be a helpful tool for you. The way that that's calculated requires all of your direct and indirect heat, which would be fuel oils and other types of things that use wood or propane. But right now we're just going to focus on an electric bill. And the difference, I will say too, between electric and fuel is that this is going to be kind of like a metered reading, whereas fuel oil is going to be bulk delivery. So you'll have like the gallons you get delivered as they get delivered. So it might not be monthly, it might be bi-monthly or every 40 days or something like that, but that's an option as well. So electric, it's going to be purchased from the grid. We just have 1 meter here, although your building could have 2 meters. You could have a large building with 3 meters or more. And then that also gives you the option if you have your own solar panels or wind turbines on site. So we're going to get started. And we've got this energy hall, town hall energy meter set up here. It looks like you can't click on this, but actually that's how you're going to edit. So you're going to add some more information. You can rename your meter if you want. This is helpful if you have multiple meters. If you've got this wing or that wing, you can rename this, but I'm just going to leave it because we've only got 1. We already chose electric grid. The units for all energy use is going to be kilowatt hours. This is where, if you did have a fuel oil delivery, it would change based on the type, but in most cases, what your NYSEG bill is going to be measuring is going to be kilowatt hours. Date the meter became active. This is important because this is not going to be the date that your building started in use. It's actually going to be the date of the very first data point that you want to put into here. So we recommend putting at least a year's worth of data in here in order to get some really good reporting. But the more you can put in, the better. In this case, the very first date of information that I have is 11/21 of 2013 that this town had given me. So, that's just, it has to match up. And if it doesn't match up, you'll see when you import the data that it'll yell at you and tell you that you have an active meter without any data on it. So it's just important. And you can always change this. So if you end up adding more data going back further years, you can always change this number too in the future by editing your meter information. it is an in-use data meter, so it's not inactive. And then is it as a delivery? It's not, which would be, as I was talking about, fuel gallons or fuel oil or things like that. So we're just going to create this meter. And now we've got this, this meter created, and we've got the data that it wants us to import here. So you can see all of the things that we can import. You can add entries individually, which is actually pretty easy to do. You would just click to add the entry, start date, end date, usage, cost, and you can keep going from there. It doesn't require all of this data. Really the things you'll want to put in are just kind of these 3 things in black here. The rest of it is helpful. Total cost can be very helpful if you want to start to know how much you've spent on energy from year to year. Estimation is if you're doing estimated versus actual, which can actually be very helpful as well to know if this is a real or estimated amount. And then these ones I don't really focus on. Green power is if your renewable energy sources and specific clean energy technologies, but I haven't really delved into that yet, and I don't think you'll have anything that will probably need to check that off. But what we're actually going to do today, because we have quite a bit of data, we have data from November of 2013 through, I think it's July of last year. We're going to import this data actually in a bulk upload, which I find to be a little bit more helpful than doing it one by one. Once you get your data in here in the future, you may want to be adding it one by one as the months go on, but to initially get your data in, you probably want to do this bulk upload. So the way you'll do this is you'll actually download this spreadsheet template that they have for you. And I've actually already downloaded it and everything. So you would just click on this, download it to maybe your desktop, and open the file. And now I'm going to share with you the one that I've actually filled in. So this is actually what it looks like. When you get it, it's actually just going to be this first line here with the headers, but you would fill in the information. And I've already have it filled in with the start date, end date, and it, like I said, it always is giving you these little boxes here for what this information is. The usage in kilowatt hours, the cost, which is optional. As you can see in this case, we had some of the cost data, but not all of it, which is okay. Is it an estimation, yes or no? It's a drop-down box. And then I didn't do these categories here for sake of time. But so we've got all this information, and we were going to put it in, and we're going to save it back on our desktop. I'm just going to show you briefly what the bills you will be pulling will look like, because I think this could be helpful to you to basically see what you might want to be pulling and what it's going to look like. So there's actually 2 ways you can do this. There's your online account, which you may have access to as a municipality, or your actual statements, your month-by-month statements, which you all will have most likely. So if you log into your online account, if you go to energy use, which is kind of halfway down here, you can actually see your energy use, read date, is it estimated or actual, and then the kilowatt hours. The thing with this is that it doesn't actually show you the cost, which you can find in your account detail, but it's not going to be there. And then it doesn't show you the start date. So you kind of have to figure out the start date for these. In this case, the start date here would be 12/15/2017, and the end date would be 1/16/18. You can kind of figure it out that way, but you do have to kind of pull that data. It doesn't make it easy for you. The other option obviously is a bill. So you've got your bills here. I've circled some of the areas that you need service from as start date, end date. Is it estimated or actual is the E here. There's an A over here. And then your billed uses is your kilowatt hours. You don't want to go by your kilowatts, your kilowatt hours. And that's the information that you need. And then obviously the cost down here at the bottom. So that you could pull it all into an Excel file and then upload it. And now I'm going to show you how to actually do that upload. All right, so back to this screen again, we're going to actually choose the file, which I have already uploaded. I've saved it as the same file that I downloaded it as, and we're going to see that it's here, and it's an XLSX file, but it can be Excel form as well. And we're just going to upload. And you'll see here, it actually has all this data in here for me. So it made it really easy for me to import all of this data as opposed to doing it one by one. And it checks off all the estimations. It puts zeros in for the costs and things like that. So we're going to hit continue. And now we've got the energy meters here. It's going to ask us this question pretty much every time. Is these meter accounts account for the total energy consumption for ABC Town Hall, or do they account for the total? It does not account. So we're going to choose it does. But if you did have another meter to add, you would say no, because you want to make sure you're adding that second meter. But that's important because then it's not going to take all of that data into the situation. And we're going to apply selections. And now we're going to look at our awesome data that we've put in here. So you can see here, it's actually created a wonderful graph of us, of all the data from 2013 to now, and kind of some of the spikes, and you can kind of see year to year. You can see here, in 2015, there was actually a lot more energy used than last January at the same time. So it's a really cool tool. And you can also go back to the summary page too, where it gives you a lot more information. And this is going to be all of your information. So if you had water and stuff in here as well, it would show you this. But this is where you're going to see your Energy Star score, your EUI, energy cost total, greenhouse gas emissions intensity. And actually what it's doing is setting a baseline year for us here, which is November 14. So 1 year after your first set of data. And then, the final year that it could possibly put in, which is ending in June 2017. So that's actually, and it shows change, which is going to show you green for increase. And this town hall actually did a significantly better. They actually upgraded all of their LEDs lights in their building, which you can tell actually had a huge impact between those years. So something to really think about if you haven't done it already, but it's just got some good information in here. The 100 Energy Star score rating obviously is the highest you can get. This is because I think the building size that I had chosen was a bit too large compared to the energy data. So it's saying that amount of energy use is really low for a building, which is pretty typical because the size is going to be a bit larger. So, so that's just something to note, that's not completely accurate. So that's pretty much the gist of actually putting data into Portfolio Manager and what that looks like. The next thing we're going to focus on is just the metrics. So this is all the metrics here, but how can you actually pull a report? This is where we're going to go to reporting here. And it gives us all these templates for reports, which are actually pretty cool. A lot of them have kind of specific information. So I have found that creating my own, which is always something you can do with the create this new template, is something that's pretty easy to do and can give you the exact information you're looking for in your report. I already created one called Energy, and I'm going to edit this so you can see what it looks like to create one, but you would name your template. You choose the date range. So I actually had it going from January of 2015 to December of 2015. So you could just see 1 year's worth of data. And this is maybe what it would look like for you if you're reporting based on your benchmarking resolution. So you just want to show the previous year's data. This is how you would do that. Select your properties. In this case, we want to do all properties. If you have all, which you probably do unless you want to do one by one. And then select information and metrics. So I've just chosen a few things here: electricity use, kilowatt hours of use, total greenhouse gas emissions. You can kind of scroll through this and see all of the wonderful things that it can choose for you, but there's tons of things in here that you can potentially share. And it's really up to you what you decide to share. So I'm just gonna apply that selection. I'm gonna save the template. And it's a little funny the way this works, but you would want to generate this report now, which is going to tell you the last time it was generated. So obviously you want to keep that current if you add more data. And then we're going to view. You can also download an Excel if you want to export it, but we're just going to see it online here. So it's telling me this is the information I asked it to pull: property name, year ending, the address, the electricity use, and then the total greenhouse gas emissions in metric tons of CO2. So this is just a little sample sliver of the information that you could pull potentially for this. And I wanted to show you too this really great example that I found of one of the Hudson Valley communities that's doing this clean energy community program that wanted to, that, you know, by their resolution was required to share this on their website. You can share it, and this is totally based on how you wrote your resolution, but you can share it on your website. You can have it available in your, you know, maybe your town hall or your planning department for residents, but having this available is part of that. This town actually just decided to do it online. So I don't know where this town news, I think they put it under, benchmarking data for 2016. And then they actually just kind of pulled this report, which they all got from this Energy Star, and they pulled this types of data. So the property, address, primary use, gross floor area, EUI, greenhouse gas emissions, and then they didn't have an energy performance score for any of these buildings, but they kind of gave an overview of what they're doing, what the Clean Energy Communities designation is, and then, you know, information for this kind of information. So it's, you know, it's just good to have this all in here. Let's see. So the final thing I'm going to show you here is just contacts and allowing other people to see this information. Let's see, so let's go back to Portfolio Manager. And we're going to go to contacts. So first let me show you the sharing page. So you can actually share your properties with other municipal managers. This is really helpful if you've got lots of properties and you really want to see, you know, what's going on. You want to allow other people to edit this. But first, before you share it, you need to add a contact. So I'm going to show you, I've only got one contact here, but I'm going to add a contact. Somebody that I actually know is in the system, which is Terry Carroll, who's one of our Clean Energy Community Coordinators. I'm just going to add his email. And you would search for him. So they have to have an account in here already in order to do this. I would connect with him. He would have to, it's like Facebook, so he would have to accept my connection. You'd see the connection. And then you would go to sharing. You would share or edit access to a property, select the properties, all of them or just one of them. Contacts, the only one that I currently have is somebody up in Shenango County. And then I would decide, do I want to bulk share? Do I want only read access? So this is just a really helpful tool so that multiple people can manage this portfolio, and it doesn't have to just be the one person, and kind of helps with continuity and things like that. So that's pretty much the gist of Portfolio Manager and just the general overview. Adding more properties, you just want to go back to your home screen here and add properties. And that's pretty much, you know, kind of how it works. Let's see, just wanted to share our contact information with you in case you have any questions, and maybe some next steps if you're really interested in kind of going further. Like I said, applying for Energy Star certification, if you have a rating of 75 plus, is certainly an option for you if you can figure that out. Energy Star Portfolio Manager actually has a weekly Ask an Expert webinar for more in-depth info on Portfolio Manager tools, and that's actually right now, Wednesdays at noon. So if you really want to keep on moving forward with Energy Star and you're in the mode, then I suggest you know, going over there and checking that out. Or if you've ever got in-depth questions, because there's a lot to this manager, and you can really go pretty far with it. And then ask your Clean Energy Communities Coordinator. So there's me in Shenango and Delaware counties. Terry Carroll is over in Broome, Tompkins, and Tioga counties, and then Catherine Hurlman is in Chemung, Schuyler, and Steuben counties. So just feel free to reach out to us if you have any individual questions or need us to come down and help you, or, you know, anything at all, basically. So that's pretty much the end of my presentation. I have a Q&A box here, so if anyone has any questions that maybe others might have as well, and if not, you can always follow up with any of us afterwards. So I'm just going to leave it open for just a minute and then see if anyone has any questions. Thank you all so much. And I'll mention too that this webinar is recorded. So if you ever have anybody that needs to learn this and want to share this with them, we're going to have it posted on our websites, or you can ask any of your coordinators for more information, so that anyone can kind of get a future overview of how to do this. Okay, I think that's it. Doesn't look like there's any questions or anything. So like I said, if you do have any or anything pops up, please let us know. And we're happy to help you. Thank you all so much for joining. Have a good one.